Here from Lungchen, Dangchu, which is a town in the Wangdui Phodrang district in central Bhutan. Bhutan? I'm not sure where to put the lisp in there. I think it's after the B, but before the T. We'll figure it out. Anyway, we are here today with ESL Open Cup Asia Division number 227. So many of them already. I am, of course, your host Yaku of the Zakus, and with me today is El Jugador de Bethesda que aviva a los Flamers, like _VIP. How we doing, like?
What's up, Yaku? It's great to be back here once again. Another week of ESL Asia, and I am happy to have you on board as well, Yaku. It's great to be back casting with you once again here. We missed out, again, you just took some time down here. We casted WTL a couple of days ago, of course. Now we're jumping right back into some Korean on Korean action.
Indeed, we are kicking off spicy with two very old timers. Here on Oceanborn, we're over here in the top left-hand corner of the map, spawning all the way in the top left, as well as on the spacebar of my keyboard. We have our red Terran player coming out from the land of Korea, representing Team Vitality, or Vitality Onside. We have Ryung.
And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have the South Korean Protoss player, the blue Protoss, representing himself, currently teamless. It is Stats.
Boys.
Here we go. Yes, Stats, Ryung. Two pretty big players already facing off for the first round. I mean, that's what is brutal about this tournament, about ESL Open Cup Asia, is that you have just such high quality and high caliber players facing off so early on. There's just so many of them. Again, the bracket looking quite impressive here today.
Yeah, pretty stacked. We have a lot of players who we normally expect to show back up in ESL Open Cups. Players like Dark, players like Solar, players like Hero. But at the same time, we also have a lot of players who I feel like we haven't seen in quite some time coming back in. Of course, Rainer, since he is in Korea right now, is able to be awake and play in this tournament as well. But then we've also got a name who I have my eyes on all the way on the other side of the bracket here, like Trap. Now back out in the military, competing regularly again.
Yeah, Trap, he came back a week ago, and he has been competing. He has been trying to get back up onto that horse and reclaim his throne as one of the best Protoss in the world, and we definitely have our eyes on him. It's not just Trap coming back. If you remember, Rogue came back as well. Rogue has also been competing, but I should also point out Rogue a little bit because he is not here tonight.
Yeah, which is fairly strange, to say the least. I remember back in the day before he went into military service, Rogue was somebody who we did expect quite a lot of in these open tournaments.
Yeah, he was a very active player back in the day, so we'll wait to see him return.
Yeah. I vaguely, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Light, but I have a vague memory of there being a stretch of, I want to say, 2 or 3 months where every finals was Rogue versus Zest.
Oh my god.
In ESL Open Cups, it was just Rogue v Zest each and every week.
I remember that being a trend for a while. I do remember that as well. And I mean, you know, Rogue is back. Yes, Zest, yet to return. I believe he's set to return in a couple of months. So, I mean, we may be back to that as well momentarily, especially with Dark's own military service kind of looming on the horizon as well. It's always looming, it's never here. It's always coming, but never does arrive. The edging is real. As we are getting into our build so far, interesting build out of Ryung, by the way. I don't know if you noticed, but he didn't go for a rack suspend economic opener, but he's following this up with a very delayed starport.
Yeah, a bit of an interesting 3 racks that we've got on our hands. We normally would expect the 3 racks to just be a little bit more rushed out of this, right? Something to hit a lot quicker, something that doesn't necessarily have to kill your Protoss opponent, but will deal enough economic damage to cripple them for round 2 when you do hit with your factory and with your starport units. But that's not quite the case with this 3 racks here with Ryung.
Yeah,
I think he's still gonna hit with his, try to hit with his bio, but I mean, at this point, Stats, apart from being the Shield of Fire, being one of the best offensive players in the world, already has already set up a pretty solid defensive position.
Yeah, so Stats did go for a more economic opener. He went 2-gate blink into a third base. We do have a scan to hunt down the Observer. Observer is shut down. I was going to say that this can lead into a 2-base all in, but we have an eBay on the way. eBay, that's going to be for +1, so Ryung's going for a later timing, as you mentioned. Stim has completed, by the way, and Ryung, he can rock up with this army. He can deal a devastating amount of damage here at this third base, and the follow-up push with Medivacs with some factory production is going to be that much stronger as well.
Indeed, it is. Ryung, though, just going to be chilling in the middle of the map with this Bioforce, keeping it somewhat hidden, but once again, just delaying his attack.
Yeah, he hasn't pulled the trigger yet, which is a little bit surprising. It's allowing Stats to build up himself. I mentioned before, but he did go for a greedy opener, so he was lacking a lot of sustain with his army, but now we have Colossus production commencing here for Stats. We have Extendable Lance, we have Charge on the way, Forge for upgrades as well, and Stats, he is not missing out on too many Warpins either. He does have a decent force now to defend.
Yeah, and even with half a decent force, you have to expect Stats is going to be able to defend.
We'll see, though, because Ryung going for a bit of a split push. He's got a ground army moving out towards the third base. At the same time, a double jump towards the main base. Can Stats keep up? He does have Stalkers in position.
Yeah, he's already sensing what Ryung is up to. Ryung spies the Stalkers and decides it's not worth it to try to jump into the main, to try to go for this multi-prong. He still has the higher army supply, and he has a decent amount of Marauders, so he can try to get something done here with his main army.
Yeah, the Colossus is revealed, and with the revelation of the Colossus, we back off. We respect it, we retreat from here. So good defense by Stats. He doesn't take any damage whatsoever, but what I will say is that Ryung also didn't throw much away, right? He does preserve this army, and he can hit with a later timing.
Yeah, Ryung didn't commit, and because he didn't commit, he still has all of the supply left over to, like you said, go for a bit of a later timing, a much more effective timing. He really wants to go for that multi-prong.
Yeah, he's loading up for a quadruple drop here on the right-hand side. Meanwhile, behind this, we have a Ghost Academy on the way. Viking production has commenced. Now that Ryung has seen the Colossus, he knows what he needs to get into. EMPs and Vikings will help quite a lot here, and Ryung, he's not missing a beat, being active once again, moving out.
Yeah, going for another little bit of a multi-prong. Gonna be hitting into natural base with that quadruple drop. Gonna be revealing his hand a lot quicker though. Sats very quick to react, pull back.
Yeah, very quick to react. So 2 gas guys are gonna be going down. We should be able to pick up and get the hell out of here. At the same time, Ryung pushing in, gonna be denying that fourth base.
Yeah, very good multi-prong coming out here from Ryung. Very good use of the choke points as well. There were a couple of moments back there where a lot of Zealots and the Stalkers were just kind of behind each other, not really able to provide any damage in that fight.
Oh, exactly. As it looks like Ryung is going to be able to back off from here. Looking at the units lost tab, by the way, you can see that Ryung barely lost anything. He lost 3 Marines. 3 Marines and 1 Marauder went down. So very good trades here by Ryung. He got 10 worker kills and he's pulling back, but now he's triggering a counterattack.
Yeah, it is something that Stats absolutely needs to do right now, but he's not really finding an opening. Ryung still producing behind all of this, still has his reinforcements, this time reinforcements including Ghosts, which will absolutely shred through these Zealots that are going to try to buffer for the Colossus. And from there, it's not difficult for Marauders to clean up.
And here we go, we sim one forward. Again, there's not much here to protect these Colossus other than those Zealots. It's really mainly a Zealot-based army, and the Vikings going ham. 1 Colossus is going to be going down already.
Yeah, there's just not enough Stalkers on the ground, and what few Stalkers there are remaining aren't in position to deal with these Vikings. Colossus go down. There are Disruptors out now. Ryung has to be very careful about them, but I mean, suffice to say, it's a lot easier to dodge Purification Novas than it is to dodge Colossus Volleys.
Not wrong. Here we go. The first Nova goes off. Does not connect. We have 1 Nova left in the chamber here. Stats has to be very careful with that second Disruptor. We have 2 more Disruptors coming out as we speak. They are seconds away from popping out and from joining the main army. Until then, their Ryung is pushing and he lands the Vikings.
And he is finding a bit of an opening. Decent Purification Nova takes out 2 of the Ghosts, I believe. But not enough of the rest of the army. Another Purification Nova lands right in the heart of these Marauders. And is that going to be enough? No, it will not be. GG is called, and Ryung still has more than enough bio left over to take the game number 1.
GG, well played. A solid game here out of Ryung. Really patient play as well, right? We spoke about how we expected Ryung to hit an earlier timing because he had a force, right? He had an army to make use of, but he was very patient. He held it back, waited for a later timing. He tried to hit the third base. Once he saw the Colossus, he backed off, right? He was happy to just back off, retreat, wait for a more opportune moment, and he was eventually able to pull stats apart.
Yeah, he fought against not only stats in this game, but also his neurons that were activating in his brain. The neurons that say, Colossus, target it down. Yeah, he fought against those, and like I said, just played very patient, didn't take any unnecessary risks. Even when he went for that quadruple drop, he played out very, very safe. He dropped in a position where he would be able to make use of the choke point, and the minute the Colossus showed up, the minute those zealots broke through a front line, he just picked up, retreated, focused on his other army that was hammering down the fourth base.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Ryung just making sure he would be able to pull away before things got a little bit too intense there, just preserving his units and snowballing out of control. Very nice play out of Ryung. And now we're getting into game number 2. Ryung one game away from just winning it all and shutting Stats down. And again, I'll be honest, coming into this, I did kind of like Stats' position. He's been looking pretty impressive, especially in the most recent season of GSL, even the season before that as well. Like, Stats has been popping off, but Ryung showing us, or at least our Terran player showing us, that he is still a force to be reckoned with.
Indeed, he is, and he is going to be spawning here on Ghost River, where over here in the top right-hand corner of the map, spawning all the way in the top right, we have our red Terran player coming out from the land of Korea. We have the Tuna Terran himself representing Vitality on side. We have Ryung.
And spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss player, the blue Protoss, representing himself, currently teamless, still an amazing player, looking to bounce back and force the ace match. It is Stats.
It feels so good to say out an intro.
Yeah, it feels so good not to be rushed. To say my piece, yeah, to pace it well, you know, to build it up, to, you know, just say where exactly they are on the map, you know, where in the top right hand corner, in the top right hand corner, just so you know, because otherwise you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the way.
Exactly.
In that top right hand corner. On Ghost River.
It's good. It's good. Yeah. Just saying, WTL production team, you know, maybe give people more time to introduce players. Maybe.
Potentially.
But we are settling in here. Ryung going for a different opener, by the way. Winding it back in game 1, he went for a rack expand economic opener. This time, double gas opener instead out of Ryung. So he's going for a faster factory, and this would usually lead into a faster starport as well. So straight up a different build from Ryung, but based on the map, I mean, this does make sense.
Yeah, Ghost River has a much shorter rush distance than Oceanborn. On Oceanborn, you know, you can hang back, you can afford to be a little bit more patient, be a little bit more, what's what I'm thinking of here, like, tentative with when you decide to pull the trigger. On Ghost River, no such luxury. It is so short and so fast that not only will attacking be a lot more effective, which is why, you know, as a Terran player especially, that's usually what you want to do, but it also prompts the Protoss players to play it out a lot more defensively.
Exactly.
To get their fortifications set up faster.
Yeah, which is why, like, Stats should also be adjusting as well. It's going to be another Twilight Council opener. This should be for Blink. If you remember last game, Stats went for 2-gate Blink into a third. Would not be surprised if he invests into a couple more gateways here on Ghost River instead. You know, 3 gateways at least, just to be that much more safer and secure. As Ryung has not... oh, okay, thank God. I was like, has he expanded? We have a CC on the high ground, not on the low ground.
Yeah, I guess when we think of Ghost River, we normally think of Terran players being very aggressive and hitting timing attacks, but let's not forget, Protoss players can be a little bit cheeky in the early game too, so Ryung, not taking anything for granted, still playing this out as safe as possible.
Oh yeah, exactly. Just going to take his natural pace a little bit slower, but as you mentioned, a little bit safer as well. Behind this, getting into a second and a third rank, so his overall kind of end game is going to be the same as game one, where he has the same production setup here, 3-1-1 setup for a mass amount of bio for a pretty powerful eventual stim timing. This time though, he's getting to very early tank production.
Yeah, safety tanks going to be coming down. Well, safety tanks for now. Eventually, they're going to be using the push. But yeah, Ryung does go for it, does scout, does see the production of stats, and decides that, you know what? You could still try to apply pressure with these stalkers.
Yeah, I mean, with the Reaper movements, we have confirmed 2 gateways on low ground, the gateway on the high ground, so it's going to be 3 gate blink. As we mentioned, this is going to be a bit of a more aggressive opener here from stats compared to the previous game. But honestly, with this early tank production, this looks like, I know I mentioned it in the previous game, how these 3-1-1 setups can lead into 2 base all-ins, and it would make that much more sense on a map like this as well, where Ryung is going to have an even more potent force here. Remember, in game 1, there were no tanks involved at all. Here in game 2, I mean, we have plenty of them.
Indeed, we do. I'm keeping my eyes on the production tab. If we ever see a starport, I think that will be the indication that he doesn't have to go all in, but so long as we don't see one, it 100% is going to have to be pull the boys and hope for the best.
Oh yeah, exactly. Stats, he's taking his third base, so it's going to be 3-gate blink into an expand. He does have the stalkers out on the map to at least slow down the army to scout his opponent. With his high ground vision, we can even blink into the main, but we have a tank in position to defend said main base. 2 tanks even in the main. Up!
2 tanks in the main, 1 in the natural. I don't think Stats actually saw those tanks, however. Ryung definitely saw the observer, scanned, took it out. Stats in a little bit of a moment where he had to make a decision, blinked up into the main and got a face full of tank fire.
Oh yeah, the tank volleys were insane, but we do reinforce and we're going on in. Meanwhile, at the same time, Ryung was in the midst of pushing out.
Yeah, unfortunate timing here for Ryung. Very good timing here for Stats. We'll be able to force about half of Ryung's army to stay back at home.
Yeah, exactly. Even though Stats also an observer, he has a backup observer already on the main army, and that means that Stats, he can blink back into the main base. This may force an all-in here. Ryung, does he turn around? The boys are being pulled!
Oh, not too many of them, in fairness. It's more of boys that are going to be building bunkers and repairing as well. A couple more boys being pulled to deal with the stalkers at home. Stats warps in a lot more stalkers for defense. 1 tank already going down, 2 tanks as well, but it may be just too much firepower here for Ryung. He is going to be able to kill this 3rd base, but where does he go from here? Stats still killing a lot of SCVs on the other side of the map. 21 of them going down. Ryung has no intention of mining anymore.
Yeah, and Stats, he recalls back home, and he has a good defensive setup. He has a shield battery, he has an overcharge. To be fair, overcharge was just spent at the 3rd base, so it's on cooldown, but we have an immortal as well, and Ryung backs off. I would have assumed that he would have tried to go for the kill and go for the natural, but no, it looks like he wants to try to retreat and recover, but Ryung has some catching up to do here, as he is down to 32 workers.
Yeah, 32 versus the 44 of Stats. Doesn't have a 3rd base as well behind all of this to try to make up for it, to try to outproduce Stats when it comes to the number of workers. He has mules, which is something.
Yeah. You're not wrong. Ryung, he does have mules available, but this army from Stats is getting better and better, not just with Immortals, but now with our first Colossus. Extendable Lance is in production as we speak, +1 upgrades as well. Stats' army is getting better and better. Ryung, we may just have to build up towards another 2-base all-in where we pull the boys for a 2nd time.
Yeah, we shall see. He is still being very active on this map. Yeah, going to be pushing out once again, this time with +1. And soon to be concussive shells, but Stats, of course, already scouts this. Ryung's medevacs are so low on energy.
Yeah, exactly. They've already done so much keeping this army topped up. More medevacs are arriving. The tank does siege. Only 2 tanks this time with the main army of Ryung, so he doesn't have as much to break through. But this army here from Stats not looking too potent yet. It's only 1 Colossus. Ryung might be able to force his way towards that base.
And he's going to need to try. He's going to need to try to do anything to keep Stats, to slow down Stats' economy, keep him at bay.
Yeah, the Observer behind the army here. The scan just barely out of range, barely does miss it. It's still reinforcing with additional units. Again, you can see they're trying to bait out the army within range of the tank fire.
Yeah, and just a decent setup here for Ryung. Got a nice little spread with his bio. Takes her in a pretty good position, but here comes the army of Stats about to collapse. Thorbalets did finish up. Zealots do jump right on top of the tanks, and there's not enough bio to keep them alive. Colossus barely take any damage. GG is called, and Stats is going to be able to tie up our series sideways 1-1.
GG. GG, well played. We are going to that ace match. We're going all the way here to game number 3. Again, Ryung, he wasn't looking too bad in how he was approaching that game, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately, because Stats had vision of the main base with the backup Observer, he saw the move outs time and time again, and Stats punished him so hard for that.
Indeed, he did. He just had full vision. He knew exactly when and where he needed to flank. I was half expecting Ryung, after taking out that third base, to just go home and turtle up. Try to get a third base and turtle up, right? Because that's something that he's kind of been known for in the past. You know, when he is behind, especially in TvP, he's really good at just dropping it or turtling back home and then relying on drop play to try to keep pressure on his opponents. But instead, Ryung decided to go for a second push or a third push. Another push after his initial push got deflected, and as we can see, that's exactly what Stats wanted. That's playing exactly into Stats' own strengths.
Yeah, exactly. He saw the army coming ahead of time, was able to prepare himself for that final push as well, and yeah, Stats handled himself quite impressively in game number 2, and now it all comes down to the ace match.
Indeed, it is. This is why we were so excited to get into this match as a starter. And here we go to decide who is going to move forward to face, I believe it is Dark?
Yep.
Yes, to face Dark after this. We're on Site Delta, where we're in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, spawning all the way in the bottom right. We have our red Terran player coming out from the land of Korea. Is of course going to be representing Vitality on side, the Tuna Terran himself. We have Ryung.
And
Clem Crusher.
He is, and spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have his opponent, not quite Clem, but we have the South Korean Protoss player, the Blue Protoss, representing himself, forcing that ace match. Can he go the distance? Can he make it into the next round? It is Stats.
Map, a series really that could absolutely go either way. I think both players are a little bit worried of what's to come after this match, but for right now, everything's just on the line. This is all they can really focus on.
Exactly. It's all on the line right now. Stats and Ryung, the tournament life, we should say, as it is single elimination. You know, there is no double, there's no lower bracket here that can save you. There's no safety net. It's all or nothing here in the ESL Open Cups. It is brutal in that sense. I mean, to be fair, a lot of these tournaments, a lot of StarCraft is brutal in general here, and one of these players is going to have to bow out in the first round, which is crazy. Again, caliber of play here, quite high.
Indeed. My so far are going to be a little bit more on Ryung here. You know, we went from a pretty standard map in Oceanborn to a very short rush map in Ghost River into something a little bit in between now on Site Delta. So I have to wonder if he's still going to go for that pseudo 3-1-1 style that we saw in Game 1 and Game 2. Or is he going to completely switch things up entirely? Stats so far in the series, I think, has been playing a little bit more reactive. You know, he had a bit more of an aggressive style on Ghost River, or rather a bit more of an aggressive setup on Ghost River with 3 gates, but so far in the series, it's just been Blink, it's just been reacting to what Ryung has been throwing his way.
Yeah, right, like stats, he did go for 3-gate blink in the previous game, so went for a more aggressive variation, and he was able to do quite well with it, but as you mentioned, a lot of it did come down to the map as well, so we'll keep an eye on stats to see if he does deviate. Meanwhile, Ryung is switching it up. This time, it is going to be a 1-1-1. No additional racks.
Mine drop, let's go.
Let's go.
You know, I feel like a lot of Protoss players, they underestimate the power of the mine drop just because it got nerfed.
Yeah, and to be fair, I actually haven't seen a mine drop in TvP in a couple of weeks. Like, unironically, it is a build that has kind of fallen out of fashion and fallen out of favor for good reason, right? It was nerfed, and because that feels like a lot of Terran players are deviating away from that opener, but Ryung is whipping it out once again.
Yeah. Does not surprise me one bit. I believe Maru went for something similar. It wasn't the classic mine drop or a mine drop that we know and love that he went for the other day, but it was still a medevac with mines in it to try to scout his opponent and potentially deal damage. I don't remember if he was successful with that drop, but still. Ryung and Maru, the Terran brothers, they are keeping the mine drop alive.
They are, and here we go, the medevac heading towards that main base. Behind this, we're going for the rest of our racks set up here into our eventual 3-1-1, and in the main base, stats is set up. We have 2 stalkers here at the natural, we have 2 stalkers in the main base as well. How well can we react, though?
Yeah, stats very quick to pull the probes. Looked a little bit dicey for a second, as they were all lining up, but for the most part, he is gonna be fine.
Yeah, it looks like 1 stalker goes down in the main base, 1 probe goes down at the natural, but the Widowmine's going to be cleaned up. At the same time, how many gateways? 2 gateways are done, 2 more gateways on the way. This time it's going to be 4-gate blink out of stats. He still is expanding and taking a 3rd base, but he has a lot of production available here to be that much more aggressive on site Delta.
Yeah, he's just going to continue to be warping in, and if an opening presents itself, you have to expect stats to jump on top of it.
You do have to expect it here. Stats is going to be moving out across map. Blink is about to finish up. Meanwhile, back at home, what do we have to defend? Ryung, no tank production yet. Bunker not quite done either.
This bunker is very late here, coming out from Ryung. And Stats has full eyes on it. Does have that Observer Siege in position, a very good position, where Ryung shouldn't be able to really chase it away without getting any air units.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be difficult to really engage with. Second Observer has arrived as well behind this, so we're not going to be reinforcing with a War Prism. We do have an army, don't get me wrong, and the goal here is to delay any kind of push or to contain Ryung as we build up towards Colossus and Charge Lots.
A very potent, specifically anti-Terran, anti-Marine army composition coming out here from Stats. Very strong defensive, very strong defensive unit composition with those Colossus, but of course, since you're getting charged, the minute you're able to defend against your Terran opponent's push, you have a very, very short, that's what I'm thinking of here, like, you have a very, it doesn't take you too long to counterattack, is what I'm trying to get at.
Short window of opportunity.
No. That window of opportunity is pretty large, but you don't have to wait too long to get on top of it. You have a short wait period to go for the counterattack. Refractory period, if you will.
There you go, and we'll see if Ryung can try to break out, try to break free, and even take a 3rd base. 3rd CC is going to be thrown down on the high ground. We do have a drop waiting outside the main, but Stats is in position, does have a warp in ready for this, and yeah, Ryung will not find a way in, at least not into the main.
Not the main yet, as he is moving out with his other army. Ryung, he's been really liking these multi-prong harasses, or multi-prong pushes, I should say, throughout the series.
Let's have a blast.
Yeah, he really has. And the Observer is going to spot the army. Ryung, I believe, spotted the Observer with the Raven, but he has to pull back. You can see Stats keeping up with the rotations here of Ryung. Likewise, Ryung trying to maybe even sandwich this army as well. Has to be careful. He does have Disable, so this first Colossus isn't really too threatening to Ryung. Not yet.
Yeah, but when that second Colossus pops out,
then things
that's when you have to be worried.
Yo, Stats with these Observer positions are brutal, by the way. He once again sees the reinforcements. He knows, he's aware of how large the army is. Now we're pushing in. And how good are the disables? We do get both Colossus.
We got both Colossus. Mine not quite able to land in the center of these Zealots. It will finally pop off. About half of the Zealots have been taken out, but they have bought more than enough time for the Disable to run out for these Colossus to get to everything. Really good mine shot here from Ryung. But once again, it's not quite going to be enough for him to keep this push going.
Yeah, exactly. Has to retreat. Ooh, big snipe here on the Raven as well. The Observer does survive, and Stats just chasing Ryung all the way back home. Ryung is going to be reinforcing, this time with Vikings, though.
Yeah, and this is exactly what we were talking about earlier on. When you get charged, when you focus on both Colossus and charge, you can counterattack pretty much immediately.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing we're missing here is a War Prism, right? A War Prism to reinforce on the front lines, and Stats can commit. Scan shuts down the Observer at least, so Stats has to retreat for now, but oh my god, again, he's so quick to replace those Observers. Always has one in the back line ready to replace, ready to move in.
Yeah, he's even getting a second Robo, so he can produce 2 Observers now.
That's why. It's all about that vision, all about those Observers. Stats, he's going to retreat for now. I do like that he's not overextending, waiting for his Robo production and his eventual Disruptors, I imagine, to come out. Meanwhile, Ryung thankfully maintains his economy. He's on 3 bases, he's got a comparable worker count with his opponent, and he's working towards Vikings and Ghosts.
Yeah, the next phase here of a Terran army. It's kind of biding his time, just kind of waiting for his upgrades to hit. I just realized that Ryung only now is getting an armory, so yeah, that's rough. 2-2 is going to be super delayed. Stats is already going to have +2 and +1 armor before Ryung can even start researching 2-2.
Yeah, as you mentioned, that was a bit of a misstep there by Ryung. On top of that, as he moves out with his drop towards the left-hand side, the main army, there's an Observer also parked on top of it. We see everything. We have an Observer here on the right-hand side as well. Stats is moving in. His army is spotted, though, by the Widowmine. Ryung is aware.
Yeah. Who needs Observers when you have mines?
True. From their Stats is going to have to back off. He gets scanned on, of course. Ryung likewise pulling back as well. There's a lot of positional play going on right now, but Stats is about to max out. Spats, that's another player.
Oh, I miss Spats, yeah.
Smooch.
Oh, the German bros. But yeah, a lot of positional play happening coming down. Both players trying to outmaneuver the other. Ryung getting his 4th base. Who needs Observers when you can throw down Pylons, is what Stats says. Unfortunately, Pylons are a little bit more fragile.
Yeah, the drop was spotted. Stats pushes in. Thankfully, Ryung is in position, so he has enough here to fend Stats off. He does rotate back over with the rest of his army, and what's important here is that Stats has been maxed out for quite some time. He has been able to break Ryung, and Ryung, likewise, is maxing out himself.
Yeah, only 10 supply away. This is kind of what I expected from Ryung on Ghost River after being pushed back the first time. Just defend, 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 and maybe go for some drops as well. You know, who needs Observers when you have sensor towers, is what I say. So Ryung on the minimap can see the movement of Stats' army, knows exactly where it's positioned, can try to go for a bit of a sandwich, I suppose. Does he want to engage the main army? Well, I guess he kind of has to at this point. Or he feels like he has to at this point.
Yeah, he's poking in, almost does get the Disruptor as well. Stats has to pull back. Behind this, he's mass expanding, by the way. Stats is on 3, 4, 5, soon to be 6 bases here. A mass, or just a solid economy here from Stats. And Ryung has been unable to touch the bases or the workers here of Stats this entire game. Has been pinned back at home, but he's just waiting for his opportune moment here to collapse on the army.
Yeah, indeed he is. Word here now for Ryung. Stats is expanding exponentially. Ryung is keeping up somewhat, but Stats, you know, he's already amassing a bank. Sure, he's maxed out. He can't quite transition to anything else just yet, but there we go. Already, Stargate on the way, researching +1. He doesn't need to get his carriers and his Tempest and his fleet beacon units out now. He just needs to get production for them, and then eventually switch.
Yeah, he's ready for that tech switch. Meanwhile, Nova going to be going off. Good splits here out of Ryung. He does avoid most of it. Good EMPs as well. Vikings going ahead. We take down the Colossus, and the second Colossus is going to be falling as well.
Just like so, Vikings will land as well. Good splits coming out from Ryung. Stats still getting a couple of units here and there with his Purification Novas, but they have not been super efficient, to say the least. Ryung going to completely smash through this army, and he is going to continue pushing. Stats, on the other hand, has so much production. 12 Zealots now on the way. Are they going to be enough to stop this momentum that Ryung has built up, though?
Yeah, that's a question. Good splits once again. Ryung avoiding most of these Novas, but we can't avoid all of them. They will eventually connect, and Ryung has to load up. He has to get the hell out of here. Stats does hold on. His army is low tier, though. I mean, he has no more Colossus. He has mainly Zealots. The Disruptors do pose a big threat. That's going to be 6 Disruptors here for Stats, and Ryung has not hit limited production yet. He's working on it. 4 libs are on the way.
Slowly but surely. A lot of Purification Novas here. You know, Ryung has been swinging pretty well against them, but after a while, you just run out of space to pull back to split away from. Stats doesn't have that much anti-air here, so I guess Ryung is relying a bit more on juggling. But Stats is already pretty much doubling the army supply of Ryung, and keep in mind, a lot of Ryung's army supply right now is in these medevacs. And medevacs don't hit, don't deal damage.
Hey,
I can do the opposite.
They do not, and GG gets caught. Stats overwhelms Ryung, breaks through that third base. GG, and Stats will take the series 2-1, advancing on into the round of 16.
Up. My earbuds are connected still somehow. I need to turn off Bluetooth.
Where is it? Where is it? Oh!
Oh. Yeah. GG. Nicely done here from Stats.
Yeah, GG, well played. I mean, Ryung was holding his own to get us wrong, but unfortunately that limited production was a little bit too late. Would have been amazing to have had them reinforcing and a part of the second wave of the army, but they just weren't there in time. And with those zealot reinforcements, with the disruptors, more importantly, Stats was able to break through. Was a pretty tense back and forth there between the two players, but again, Stats with his economy, with his bank, was too much to handle.
Yeah, way too much. I think you mentioned it in the game itself, but I do think it has to be stated once again. The absolute MVP in that game for Stats were those observers.
Mm-hmm.
They were absolutely key in Stats being able to catch all of these drops and these movements coming out from Ryung. I mean, Ryung, after his first timing got deflected, was going to do what Ryung does best, which is hang back, defend, and then go for drops to harass. But because of all these observers that Stats had, he was able to catch these drops each and every time they were moving out. And Ryung really wasn't able to get anything done with them. And like you said, by that point, by the time Ryung was able to max out and was able to break free from that contain that Stats was setting up for him, he already had a lot of production. He already had a huge bank. He was able to just reinforce, halt Ryung's momentum, and then just keep the counter push going.
Yeah, just kept it going, and congratulations. My condolences to Ryung. Again, he did have a great showing here, you know, taking it to Stats, but in the end, his run does end here in the first round. And if you look at the screen now, we have our next matchup. We have our PvZ, Stats versus Dark.